going to be your host. My name is Jeff Richardson. I'm joined by Ty Reynolds. And Jay couldn't make it tonight, so we talked Kenny into coming down here. Kenny Sharp. Thanks for coming, Kenny.
All right. Hey, it's about time we got all the three guys here. We can be chauvinistic tonight.
Are you not supposed to give that away now? Wait a minute. Anyhow, this is a live show, so why don't you guys give us a call at 873-6713 if you have any comments or questions about sports, and I guess we'll just dive right into it. Ty, you got a big game Friday, Tech and Georgia. Both coaches are on the hot seat. What's going on?
Well, I think this could easily be the last game for both coaches here at Georgia. We've talked about this all year long where we think Ray Goff is gone and could have been gone as early as after the Vanderbilt debacle at homecoming, whereas George O'Leary and his team lost to a pitiful Wake Forest club, and a loss like this really gets a lot of notice. Here it is. Georgia Tech just dominated these guys. They held them to 2.2 yards a carry. Wake Forest passed for less than 60 yards in a game, so they couldn't run, they couldn't pass, but they managed to score, 23 points in this game and win the football game. That's because Tech made 6 turnovers. When you're constantly making turnovers and saying that you're beating yourself and killing yourself, I think that's because of coaching. And it may be unfair to say that goes back on O'Leary, and I think that is unfair, but unfortunately, this is a business, and a lot of your executives at these universities don't look at it that way. They look at getting money into the school.
Well, Tech's had a problem with fumbling the ball all year. Turnovers have continuously killed them in games where they've had more yardage than the opponent, and they've turned the ball over deep in the other team's territory. I don't think it's the coach's fault, but still, O'Leary has to set himself up here where he can come back next season, win the good graces of the athletic department, and get a good win against Georgia if he wants to hold this job. I think if Tech doesn't play well, at least against Georgia, they're going to look outside for another coach.
All right, I think you're right, Kenny. As a matter of fact, we've heard the name Dick Sheridan has popped back up into the news as being associated with Tech. I think that's a possibility. Ty, what do you think about Homer Rice versus Vince Dooley in the decision-making process?
Well, first of all, I think Homer Rice, through his recent history, has done really a good job. However, I have to disagree with one thing that he did a couple years ago, and that's letting Bobby Crimmins come back. And as for his football program, what Homer Rice, I think, needs to do is, well, first of all, this is an old guy, and he's probably going to step down in a little bit anyway. I think that what he needs to do is to tell the head coach that eventually he can be athletic director and head coach as well, because if you have a successful head coach at Tech, he's going to go somewhere else. Georgia Tech's not a good enough job. It's not a good enough football program to keep people there. It's a stepping stone. Just ask Bobby Ross.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
All right. Just a couple more names I'm going to throw out, mention for the Tech job if O'Leary doesn't retain it. Mike Riley, who's out at USC right now, has been interviewed for the job, I think. And Mickey Andrews from Florida State, a defensive coach down there, has been interviewed also.
Mickey Andrews would be an excellent choice, and how he stays hidden down there at Florida State for so many years, I don't know how. I think that would be an excellent choice. I think that Mickey Andrews immediately would be a threat in the home state to Georgia's recruiting dominance that they've had in the past couple of years. Although Georgia seems to make so many mistakes, maybe if someone took a few away from them, maybe they would maybe accidentally go out and have to pick up some good players once in a while. I think that's one thing that they've done is made mistake after mistake evaluating talent, and I think that's one thing that's going to do Ray Goff in. He got the job because of his recruiting expertise, and I think his recruiting may be the thing that kills him because he just doesn't have enough good football players.
Yeah, I think Andrews was hidden at Florida State for so long on account of the defense at Florida State is always overshadowed by the offense down there. And it was only a matter of time before Bowden's staff got raided. This year they got Brad Scott, who's at South Carolina, off the staff, and I think that Andrews will get a head job somewhere, if not at Tech.
Well, I think Scott took several of the coaches with him to South Carolina, and if Andrews leaves, then Bobby Bowden, may be hurting a little bit.
Yeah, he's an older fella, and he's going to have to, get a new staff in there that's going to run the offense and defense for him. I don't think that he's at the age where he can do that stuff by himself. He's definitely going to need some good assistance to keep that program up.
Definitely.
Right. I see the phone lines are lit up. Let's go ahead and check that call. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
How you doing tonight?
I'm all right.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, you was talking about when Bobby Crimmins left Georgia Tech to come back. I can understand, that you have a lot of reservations against that, but the guy's a proven coach. He's a proven winner, whereas the coach that coaches football, Bill Lewis, he wasn't a proven winner in my book. I mean, sure enough, he did come from East Carolina and had an undefeated season, but that was only one winning season.
I agree.
We agree.
And I really feel that Georgia Tech made the smart idea by letting this guy go. And Dick Sheridan, I know he's from NC State and he may be a proven coach, but he hasn't shown me anything. So I think they need to go out and find a coach that's a proven winner.
Okay, thanks for the call.
I think that's probably true for the situation in Athens also. I know everybody wants a proven coach up there. But, Ty, we heard a couple of things today. Why don't you go ahead and talk about the coaching situation up there?
Well, I think if Georgia had their first choice, who they would like to go after is Dennis Erickson. But then you're setting yourself up for a big fall here because I don't think there's any doubt Erickson wants to leave Miami. But then I think he's holding out for an NFL job. I think Seattle will be looking for a coach. And then, of course, one of the expansion teams is still looking for a coach. He could get one of those two offers, and I think he would take it. If you sit around and if you wait for Erickson to make a decision or wait for one of these NFL clubs to make him an offer, and if they make it, well, then it's gone so far in the recruiting season, and you're still left without a coach, I think that's a mistake. If you get an answer out of him, you need one earlier. As for a former assistant, Steve Ensminger, that's a name we mentioned earlier a couple of weeks ago. Steve Ensminger, I think, would definitely take the job, but it would make it an easy transition both internally with the coaches and with Dooley's pocketbook with the athletic budget. Of course, when you're talking about saving money, that always raises the interest of Vince Dooley.
Yeah, but I think, well, I'm just going to interrupt you here for a second,
right.
Ty. I think the reason that Georgia's programs are just in mediocrity is because they always take the easy way out. I think they should go outside the organization or outside the university and look for some new blood to come in here and get something new going at Georgia. I mean, the basketball program, they keep bringing Hugh back because it's the easy thing to do. This guy's been 4 or 5 years past his prime as a basketball coach. The same thing's going on with Goff. He's had mediocre teams with great talent, and I just think they need to look outside and get some new blood in there.
Oh, I agree with that totally. I mean, I've been saying here for a long time that I think Georgia needs a new athletic director, and they do need new life. But this is just what I've been hearing from some of the influential people about what's happening over at Georgia. And you still have these Pat Dye rumors looming around. Now, Pat Dye would not be a head coach at Georgia, but Georgia could go out, hire the defensive coordinator at Auburn, who's Wayne Hall, who has a very close relationship to Pat Dye. Pat Dye is very good friends with one of the heaviest contributors with the university, so certainly his name is always going to be brought up in these situations. He could come on as a consultant and groom Wayne Hall for the job. Again, this is just speculation, and I don't know what's going to happen, but these are the 3 strongest rumors that I hear.
Yeah.
Well,
I just wanted to go back to the phone call just for a second, saying that Dick Sheridan was not a proven winner. Dick Sheridan stepped into an NC State situation that was just a horrible football team, and he made them instantly respectable. They won 7 or 8 games just about every year. They couldn't beat the really, really good teams, but he brought a team that was a 2-9 team every year to a team that won 7 or 8 games every year. He stepped down because of health problems. Apparently he's healthy now. I think that would be a good choice for Tech. I really do.
I do too. I mean, he's paid his dues. He was at Furman, and he was successful many years.
All right, well, let's take another time out and get back on the phones. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. I was the caller that called about when you was talking about Dick Sheridan.
Okay.
Yeah.
My TV may be up just a little bit. But anyway, I understand the guy's a proven winner. And I agree with you, the guy in the blue sweater here that says that Georgia needs to go outside and find new blood. But what new blood? I mean, these guys, Ray Goff is a pitiful coach.
Agree.
To come in and take over a legend like Vince Dooley, Ray Goff, no one had heard of him. Actually, we wanted Bill Lewis at Georgia when he was there as a defensive coordinator, because that's who I wanted. But what new blood could you be talking about?
Well, we've already
we mentioned that.
Mentioned Dennis Erickson, Steve Ensminger. Well, I don't think money's the object.
I
think
don't
there's
may not
plenty
be
of
an
money up
object.
there.
Not some of these alumni.
No.
I think some of these alumni, you'd be surprised how much money they have and what they'll put on the table to get a new coach if they want them.
We're telling you, it's almost...
This is going to be wild, but how about Marion Barry?
Is he back in jail or?
No, he's the mayor now.
Campbell. How about Campbell?
Oh, he's done a terrible job with the defense. Why would you give him a head job? You can't.
He did a terrible job with the Falcons.
He's done an awful job everywhere he's been. The thing, we were talking new blood, and I'm telling you, it's almost a done deal that Erickson's going to be out of Miami next year. His family hates it down there. He's had nothing but bad publicity from the press, taking over for Jimmy Johnson, and he hasn't deserved it. He's like 60-8 or some 66, 67-8 since he's been there. And he's gotten a lot of bad press. 2 national championships and a lot of bad press. He hates the city, or his wife does. and he wants out. Now, whether he goes to the NFL or to another major college program, I think Georgia has a real shot to get him. This is an attractive program. It's a college town. I think his family would like it there. Not that I know her or anything, but it's got to be better than Miami.
We could start another rumor here now. Wait a minute. All right, anyhow, we've talked about coaching changes. I think it was pretty much established. I believe Emsminger is probably the front runner for Georgia because that's the easiest thing for Vince Dooley to do. Yeah. And let's go ahead and talk about Friday's game.
Well, here it is. Georgia Tech has been giving up a lot of yards on the ground. Every time you look at a box score, Tech's given over 5 yards a carry. I think Georgia should take advantage of this. They ran the ball very well against Auburn. However, they may want Eric Zaire to put up as many points and as many numbers as he can. Personally, I would rather see Georgia come out there and try and win the game for Georgia instead of doing something for an individual. He'll get his numbers anyway. All he needs is a mixed balance attack, and Eric Zaire is very effective. And Terrell Davis and the running game has shown how effective they can be against big-time opponents like Alabama and Auburn. If Georgia mixes it up and does not make a big number of mistakes, they're going to win this football game, and they'll win it easily.
Yeah, they should. They should win the game easily, and if they don't, then that's the final nail in the coffin for Ray. You know, Tech was a 23-point favorite against Wake Forest and lost the game. 6 turnovers, they outgained him and all that stuff, but they lost the game. That's the bottom line. And Georgia has got to beat Georgia Tech. I think they will. I think they'll beat them easily.
At least Ray Goff will be able to put it on his tombstone. I went 4-0 against Tech if he wins this game.
That'll be his legacy.
What? It's a 4-1. What was it? 4-1 or something like that. He had one loss in '89. No, 4-2. Excuse me. 4-2. He had a winning record against him actually.
Ty, you may have hit on something about the Georgia program this year, and that's the fact that maybe Eric Zaire, maybe they've been trying to throw the ball too much to build these numbers up for him in the Heisman campaign.
Well, I think also that they felt that was basically the only way that they could move the football, and I think that that's a problem that I have with Wayne McDuffie. He's done a lot of good things at Georgia, but the offensive coordinator at Georgia just, I think, has made him too one-dimensional and too predictable. When I saw Georgia in the shotgun, when they got behind and saw Florida put pressure with a 3-man rush, I have a problem with that. And you're sitting there running a style of offense to where you can fall behind early, whereas when they put the quarterback behind the center against Alabama and Auburn, they were very effective.
I think Georgia started to throw the ball a lot this year when Terrell Davis went down and before Hines Ward became a halfback and was, he moved over to that position. I think they did it out of necessity more than anything else, and I don't know if it was to get Zaire a better shot at the Heisman or whatever, but I just think that was their best shot at moving the ball. At least that's what they perceived.
All right. Well, speaking of the Heisman, does Zaire have a shot? I mean, obviously he probably does not. Who's going to win the thing?
I think Salam's got the lead. I think he's going to win it, and also I think that the extra exposure Colorado is going to get now because of Bill McCartney leaving the school as a head coach is just going to get them more into the spotlight. And who's going to be the new coach of Colorado? I just think Salam's going to win it, and I think John Carter at Penn State will come in second.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's only been 3 halfbacks before Salam that have gained over 2,000 yards in a season. They've all won the Heisman. So I think this gives Salam is the front runner. But in a season where there's not really been a dominant player, there's nobody been in the lead all year long like there's been so many times before, this would be McNair's best shot at winning the Heisman. A guy from a small college would have a better shot in a year when there's not really been a dominant player. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll finish second or third.
Boy, I'd just hate to see a Division II guy win the Heisman Trophy. I don't think that's what it was meant for.
Well, I don't think he deserves it either, but I just think with all the exposure and all the press he's gotten, and he's on ESPN this Friday at 12 in the Division I AA playoffs. If he has a good game, I think he's got a shot, but I really don't think he'll win it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this bowl picture that seems to be taking shape. Ty, is Georgia, are they going to make a bowl this year?
I don't think so. I think whenever you have a coach that is under fire, one of the things that your alumni has a habit of doing is stop supporting the team and stop going to the games. That's not how to make friends with the bowls. The bowls want to sell tickets. As for the CarQuest Bowl, I think they love to have South Carolina. From what I understand, when South Carolina talked to them after their victory over Clemson, they told them that they would buy 30,000. They just ordered 30,000 right away. I mean, no one's going to be able to come close to that. South Carolina's a program on the rise. Mike McGee, the athletic director over there, has done a great job, unlike Vince Dooley's done at Georgia. He's hired himself a very good young basketball coach. He's gotten a good young football coach in Brad Scott. South Carolina's on the move, and I see a lot of positive things for them in the upcoming future. They're a program just unlike Georgia. They're on the rise right now, and I think they'll sell a lot of tickets, and they'll go to that CarQuest Bowl. I think Georgia will be home for the holidays 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
I don't think they're going anywhere.
I'd like to. I know there's an article in the paper today about the Aloha Bowl possibly being an option for Georgia that was ruled out because of travel expenses, and it was sort of an iffy reason given for that. $400,000 to fly 100 people to Hawaii.
I don't know. I tell you what, makes you want to get into the travel business then.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back on the phones. Caller, you're on the air. Hello. I guess is the caller there?
Hello?
There you go. You're on the air, sir. Do you have a question? Well,
Maybe
I guess
not.
Maybe we'll have one next week.
Maybe he just wanted to say hello.
All right, let's go back. Let's talk more bowls here. The ACC's got 5 teams going to bowls this year. That's sort of surprising.
Well, I think the thing that you can do for the ACC is you can thank 3 crummy teams, Maryland, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest, who had a record of something like 3-21 in the ACC. If you have 3 big-time losers like that in your league and you play 8 conference games, you're going to have a lot of the other teams get a lot of other wins. That's what's happened in the ACC this year.
Well, who's going that doesn't deserve to go?
Well, I think the 4 top teams, Virginia, Carolina, Duke, and Florida State, all obviously deserve to go. And who's the 5th?
NC State.
NC State is maybe a marginal team to go to a bowl game, but I think there'll be other worse teams playing in bowl games this year. There's how many, 16 or 17 bowl games? That makes 34 college football teams going. You have teams that are not in the top 25 that are going to bowl games, and obviously, there's going to be some pretty bad matchups.
Well, obviously, you may be seeing Notre Dame with 4 losses going to the Sugar Bowl, which is one of the majors.
Well, Notre Dame has a contract or whatever with the Bowl Alliance saying if they win 7 Division 1A game or Division 1 games, they play on New Year's Day. That's written in stone. So
well, that's the breaks of the College Bowl Coalition, I guess.
Although the Cotton Bowl would love to have them, because what a way to bail out the Southwest Conference and having Texas Tech and Notre Dame.
All right, let's see if we can get this caller on the air here. Caller, do you have a question?
Hello?
Hi.
I have a question. Why not lure Gene Stallings from Alabama?
What?
Well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm a Tide fan, and I wouldn't want to do that.
I think
But,
Gene's...
I was skimming through the channels, and you was talking about coaching changes when I turned away from it. But what coach would you bring to Georgia?
Well,
Each one of you.
Simple.
Other than Erickson.
we've sort of beaten this to death already tonight, I think. We mentioned
Right.
Dennis Erickson, Steve Emsminger, and who was the third candidate?
Well, Wayne Hall and Pat Dye coming over as a consultant.
Okay.
That's the other rumor.
we want another name, maybe Sonny Lubick at Colorado State, or somebody that's taken a program that was down and brought him up, maybe the Utah coach or somebody like that.
I
But
think the Miami people are excited about getting Lubick back down there.
when Erickson leaves, I think Lubick is a shoo-in for the Miami job. And now that Colorado is an opening, that's a program that's at least on a par with Georgia for trying to hire a high-profile head coach. Gene Stallings is in his last job, though. He's done a great job at Alabama, but that's his last job.
Yeah.
He's not a young man.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Thanks for the call anyhow, though. Let's get back to some surprises in college football. Duke is probably my biggest one.
Well, I think what I want to get on to is when I think of surprises, I think of some of the disappointments here. Texas was a team that was picked to go to the Cotton Bowl at the beginning of the year, and they've been a bust. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see this being John Malkovich's last year. And then the other big bust, I feel, is a team that has a tremendous facility, tremendous support. They're always on TV. Go Big Blue, Michigan. You're always overrated. That is another big bust this year. You have great recruiting classes year after year, and I'm really surprised that Moeller isn't maybe on the rumor hot seat as well as being replaced at Michigan. After losing to Ohio State like that, if I were a big Michigan contributor, I'd have a problem with that, because they just get all the great athletes up there in the Midwest and pluck a few out of Florida. Yeah. There's no reason for them to lose 7 games.
That's another high-profile job that could be open that Georgia's going to have to compete with to hire a head coach. It's going to be better to act now.
Well, speaking of high profile, Oklahoma's coach resigned today, Gary Gibbs. So,
Right.
Right.
They're starting to fall like flies here. I think we have another phone call. Caller, you're on the air. Okay, well, I think we might have cut you off. You can call
Sorry
back.
Sorry about that. On the other hand, the surprising programs this year, Colorado State and Sonny Lubick, like Kenny just mentioned, what a wonderful job out there in Fort Collins he's done. That team's 10-1. They had a win on the road at Arizona. I think Rich Brooks has done a fantastic job at Oregon this year. They're 9-3, super year for the Ducks up there in Salem, Oregon. And Those are the two that basically stick out in my mind. And finally, I got to give a lot of credit to Gene Stallings in Alabama. You remember at the beginning of the year, all the talk over there was the Gene Jelk story and controversy about Alabama possibly facing probation. What a tremendous distraction. This type of distraction killed Auburn a couple of years ago with the Eric Ramsey tapes. Stallings has done a great job of keeping his team focused. He's replaced 4 offensive starting linemen on this team. He's just done a super job. I think Alabama has really done a good job with what they've had this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Getting back to the Texas thing, Texas and Makovic cannot keep his players out of trouble. And I think everywhere you've seen in college football where players are getting into trouble, the coach goes. It happened at Oklahoma. That's what cost Switzer his job. I think Makovic is in trouble down there. They're going to move into a new conference, the Big 8. Well, it's going to be the Big 12. And he's in trouble.
Something I'd like to see the Big 12 do as well is that, first of all, the Big 8's got that commitment down to Miami every year, and it seems like they have to play Florida State or Miami every year down there in the Orange Bowl, which is nothing but a free home game for a Florida school. What I would do if I were that conference is I would make the champion of my league go to the Cotton Bowl and say, fine, if you want to play me, if you want to play my champion, you come over here into Dallas, and hopefully it'll be freezing and raining, and bring your little sunny Florida boys up here and play me up here for once in my type of climate. That's what I would do if I were the commissioner of that conference.
But Ty, you know for a fact that money rules college football, and the Cotton Bowl is not going to pay that much money.
Well, I think that if you could get a major matchup with one of those Big 12 schools, and you have to realize the potential of that conference, they could have several highly ranked teams to where they could put themselves on some type of bargaining leverage like that.
Right. Why would Miami or Florida State venture out of Florida when they don't have to? I mean,
they may have to because of the coalition.
Yeah, they may have to if Nebraska or Colorado or Texas A&M or Texas or anybody like that is ranked number 1 and they have the Cotton Bowl game, then you got to go there to play them if you want to be number 1.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take another phone call. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, I have a question about the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
I'd like to know when those guys are going to just get rid of that run and shoot and get to the conventional offense like everybody's telling them they should do. I see all these television programs, they say that everybody's getting away from it, that it's too easy to defend. I mean, I'm tired of these guys being as disappointing as they are. You know, you go into the season, pay your money, go to a couple of games, and then they just start losing midway through the season, and it destroys my love for football, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, thanks for the call. Well, I agree with that totally. I mean, here it is with the run and shoot. First of all, it puts you in a situation where you want to pass all the time. A perfect example is yesterday. Jeff George was like 19 of 43 or 44, and he threw some long passes and had a lot of yardage. But the thing is that this team averaged almost 5 yards a carry with Hayward. That's a successful running play, and you need to keep doing that. Not only that, your roster's only 45 men. You can only have so many people on defense. And wasn't it ironic that Denver had the ball 35 minutes and then John Elway was able to move the ball at will on the Falcons late in the game? Maybe because the defense was out there too long. Maybe because the Falcons didn't run it enough and eat up enough time. I agree with that caller totally. You've got to get rid of this offense, but you can't do that until you get a new coach. And, I mean, he just went out and got a new coach.
Yeah. The run and shoot, they put up 28 points yesterday, but the last 2 times they had the ball, they scored on a 47-yard pass and a 49-yard pass. They held the ball for – the one was a one-play drive. It took 15 seconds, and Denver's got the ball right back. Elway's running all over the field, so the defense has to chase him. And the bottom line is that Denver scored 15 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win the game. They were down by 11. So, I mean, if your defense is out there too long, obviously you're going to wear down in the fourth quarter, especially in that altitude in Denver. But this is just one game. The run and shoot, we've been calling for it before the season started. I was on the show once, and we talked about what the prospects for the Falcons were, and we talked about getting rid of the run and shoot then. I've never been an advocate of this offense, and I think they've just got to scrap it.
I know it's amazing that you've got a guy like Ironhead Hayward averaging 5 yards a carry. You've got Eric Pegram rushed for 1,000 yards the last 2 years. What's wrong with putting both these guys in the ballgame at once and going with a pro offense?
Philosophy.
Well,
exactly.
they're going to give you the excuse that they don't have a tight end to block, but that's been the excuse for 5 years. They haven't drafted a tight end.
Hayward was brought in here. He's one of the best blocking fullbacks in the league, and now he's back in a one-back offense. That takes that element out of it. So I agree. They should go to a two-back offense. You got Hayward in here. You got Pegram, who had 1,000 yards last year and is still a young back. I'd like to see it, but as long as June Jones is here, I don't know if he's going to go away from it.
All right. Well, I think we have another caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, what do y'all think about Ed McNair and the Heisman standings?
Okay, we talked about that briefly. I personally would not like to see him win it because I don't think it's meant for a Division II player. Front runner is probably Rasham Salam from Colorado.
Right. And then also, I mean, the true test for McNair and how good he is where he goes in the first round of the draft. So if you're a fan of Steve McNair out there, and if he doesn't win it, then don't worry, just see where he goes in the draft, and then you'll know how good he is.
You know, where you talk about the Heisman Trophy and McNair, and this Heisman Trophy has been devalued so much, over the years. I mean, ESPN talks about it ad nauseum from the beginning of the year until the end, and this Lee Corso just campaigned and got Gino Toretta the Heisman Trophy, and he wasn't one of the top 100 players in the country. He happened to be the quarterback on the national championship team, and that was it. He was a terrible football player. As we've seen now, he's not in the NFL. He's nowhere. And Falk was obviously the best player in the nation that year, but he was only a sophomore, and they didn't want to give it to him, or a freshman even. So, I mean, don't even worry about the Heisman Trophy if you're out there. If you're a McNair fan, you'll see him in the NFL next year, and that's all you need to worry about, really.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. Before we get back to the NFL, I want to thank a couple of sponsors. One of them is obviously Dirty Owls at Northside Drive, and I'd like to thank Varsity Rags out of Rumson, New Jersey for these great sweaters we're wearing tonight. So,
there you go.
All right. Let's get to the Monday night clash. Dirty Owls Monday night clash tonight. New York Giants at Houston. The Oilers have a new coach.
I tell you what, tonight it makes me grateful that there's college basketball in the world now starting. This game is really a bad football game, and if I have to pick a winner here, I really think that New York's got a suspect secondary. I think Houston may try and take advantage of that, but can Billy Joe Tolliver do it? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Dave Brown's a little bit better of a quarterback. For some reason, I like the Giants in this game, but I'd never bet on it.
Well, I'm a Giant fan.
Does that mean you bet on it?
No, I'm not going to bet on it. It's been a rough year, but, Monday Night Football makes their schedule a year in advance, and when the schedule comes out, they get one game per week, and they picked the last year's 12-4 Oilers against 11-5 Giants, and now it's 1-9 against 3-7. It looks to be a bad football game, but you never know. It could be entertaining. The Giants won their first 3 games this year, fooling a lot of people, including me. And then they had their bye week, and they haven't won since. And they've never won first game back after a bye. But really, the thing about the Giants is they've been exposed for. This really should be a team in rebuilding. And when they won their first 3 games, a lot of people thought, the Giants are going to be good again. Reeves is a great coach, but they're playing with a first-year quarterback. They lost 3 guys out of their secondary to free agency with Collins, Myron Guyton, and Greg Jackson. Both safeties were gone. Your secondary, like Ty said, is weak. You got Sims retired and Taylor retired. Taylor wasn't very effective last year, but he was an emotional, inspirational leader. So the team has really been exposed as a team in rebuilding, which is fine. You have to rebuild after you win.
Just real quick, how are the fans in New York taking? I mean, is Dan Reeves on the hot seat here?
No, I don't think he is, and I don't think he should be either. He doesn't have much talent to work with.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it. Let's wrap this show up for this Monday night. We'll see you back next Monday night, same time, same place. And thanks for coming on, guys.
All right. We'll see you at Al's.